Let's talk about lice, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that can be. Let's talk about lice. We're going to talk about lice. Lice. Just saying the word makes my head itch. And I'm sure you're probably thinking right now, I feel a little itchy. This is something that needs to be talked about, and I'm going to lay it all out on the table. There are a lot of facts and myths about lice, and I'm going to go over that. First, I just want to say that we are starting the school year. Kids are in close proximity. Sometimes they're sharing things, but for the most part, our kids are in close proximity, okay? Which means lice can be spread rather quickly if not taken care of. So here are a couple myths and facts about lice, and at the end, I'm gonna really let my opinions fly. Okay, so the first myth about lice we'll start is that only dirty heads get lice. Listen, it's false, okay? It is not true. Lice does not jump, first of all, and they don't go from dirty head to dirty head. They go to wherever they can to get their food source, which is blood. And in your hair, they can hold on and hang on to. It doesn't matter what type of head you have. I will say that lice don't usually like hair that has product in it, which sometimes mothers who dye their hair, or older women, I won't, but I'll just go with mothers. Sometimes they're okay because they dye their hair. They don't like product. They don't like hairspray. So they won't stay there or live on there. Not quite sure how that works, but they usually try to stay away from that. Doesn't mean that you're not going to get it, but it's not a dirty head, okay? The other thing is, people think head lice is dangerous. It's false. It's not dangerous. They don't carry disease. It's not going to cause any major health issues. It's gross. It makes you itchy, and, it's a pain in the butt to have to get rid of. It carries some stigma to it. I get it. The only thing that possibly, the itching, if you're not taking care of it and you itch enough and you cause something to open up and break open and bleed, that can cause an issue. But keep in mind, lice is not dangerous. Here's the kicker. You would think, most people think, that when you have lice, your head is always itchy. It's actually false. The itching is not from the bug itself crawling in there. It's from the bite. So they're getting their food source, their blood, from the head. From the saliva of what they call the louse is when you have like an allergic reaction to it of some sort, and that causes the itching. So there are times that people can have lice and not know it because they're not itchy. Listen, we all have itchy heads at some point, and it always happens to be like, for me, if I'm getting my nails done, which don't happen often, but suddenly I can't move, and all of a sudden my head's itchy. That happens. We're talking about excessive itching. But it doesn't happen, and it's not excessive all the time. So keep that in mind. Another myth. Lice do not live on pillows or blankets or in helmets. Lice have to have a food source, their blood, to survive. So without that food source, they could only last, they say, about 1 to 2 days, maybe a little less. So yes, if a kid with lice puts on a helmet and then right away puts it on somebody else's head, it could possibly transmit that way. It is said that it doesn't necessarily transmit from a helmet, from a scarf, from pillows. It could, but it's not always the way, it's not the best way, not that it's best, but the best way for lice to spread is head-to-head contact. Again, our kids are in school this time of year and they're in very close contact. Sure, when they're playing all the time. They don't fly and they don't jump from people. It has to have some sort of contact. Keep that in mind. So if you're trying to be proactive in a time where you know of someone who might have lice or your children had lice, yes, wash your blankets, put them, actually, it's more just putting them in the dryer on a very high heat, but wash your stuff. Once everything is washed and simple, it should be good. You don't have to go crazy with your carpets. There's only really some extenuating circumstances to do that, but you don't have to go crazy with blankets and pillows. Get it done once, you're good, relax. It takes about 8 to 9 days until a nit hatches. Nits can also be mistaken as dandruff, so you need to keep an eye if you think your child was exposed to it for a good 2 weeks. Be proactive. Some people wonder if you should call your doctor. Yes, you can. You can call your doctor, make sure you got the right diagnosis, talk to them about what proper treatments to use, because it has been known that some lice have become resistant to some of our over-the-counter medications and procedures that we use. Now, you know some facts, you know some myths. I'm going to get down to business here. It has come to my attention that the CDC has changed the way some things go in schools. One thing being head lice checks. My kids' school used to check them. The nurse would check them at the beginning of the school year. She would check them after any extended vacation periods. And then, of course, if there was ever an issue in a classroom. That being said, apparently the CDC has changed, and now my children's school has to make an adjustment where they don't do the lice checks unless there is a known issue, which means, and this is what burns my bubble, which means our school district, and apparently many, I urge you all to look into this, apparently many are relying solely on the parents to report there being an issue. Well, unfortunately, parents are not doing this. Some do not. There are some parents who are open and honest, and here we go. There's some that just don't and try to push it aside and pretend like it never happened and not report it, which then causes an issue. What issue? It causes an outbreak. Because, as I said, it takes 8 to 9 days for a nit to hatch, which means you might not know that your child has lice until maybe 15 days later. And by then, they've been involved in activities, playing with kids, and it may already be on another child. So, if you find lice on your child or yourself, treat them. By all means, treat them, please. Also, make the necessary phone calls to let whoever know what is going on. Parents, make the necessary phone calls if your child should be in contact or found to have lice. It is that simple. I get that there could be a stigma attached to it. There shouldn't be. I get that you don't want to embarrass your child. I get it. But it's going to be more embarrassing when it's found out that something is going around and there is an outbreak, and then it will, and it always does, we'll get back to the first parent that did not identify the issue. That is going to be more embarrassing. I can guarantee you that. I can't understand how you would want to take care of your own child, make sure they're taken care of, and not think about anybody else's children or families. It doesn't make any sense to me. So we need to just quit it, okay? You need to stop and think and do the proper actions, okay? Keep your kids home. It's that simple. Keep your kids home and treat them, okay? Do not just treat them once and think, oh, we're all good and we send it off and we don't say anything, all right? Make sure the problem is addressed. I get that some people work and you don't want to miss work. I get that some people just don't want their kids home apparently, so we want to send them to school. I get that some parents don't have the proper childcare and their jobs won't let them off. I get it, okay? Life sucks, and this whole working thing and trying to be a parent, the balance is craziness, okay? I understand that. But there has to be a point in time that we all have to stop and think and be humanitarians. We need to stop and think and care about other people, okay? And I can almost guarantee you that if you are forthright and say and tell whoever you have to tell what's going on, there's going to be no embarrassment. There's going to be no backlash. You know what there's going to be? There's going to be a thank you. I'm so sorry you're going through this. We appreciate you letting us know so we can help somebody else or make sure there's no other issues. That's what you're going to hear. And if you don't hear that from some people, and you hear the latter of people making fun of you or being, condescending or whatever it might be, even when, you announce to the proper people that this is going on, well then, you know what? Get rid of those people in your life. Okay, because listen, it takes a flipping village to raise these children and to have families and to make sure that we're not raising assholes. It's that simple. But you know what? You're going to be raising little assholes if you're the little asshole. Okay? And I don't like to curse in these things, but it is the way that it is. Okay? We have to show our children the proper way of doing things and the kinder way of doing things. Okay? Not just the, oh, you know what? We're not going to say anything about this and pretend like nothing ever happened and, watch everybody else go through maybe bigger issues. It's about all that I got to say about that. Okay. So now I'm off my little tangent, and I think y'all know how I feel about people who can't be open and forthcoming about things that are going on, which some people are not like me. They're not as open. They're not as communicative. That's fine, except in issues like this. You got to come out of your hole, and you got to suck it up, and you just got to admit it, okay? So that being said, what can you do to be a little proactive in these times? Listen, first of all, what I do with my girl, now mind you, I'm going to go back to this. Do you see this head of hair? All right. Could you imagine what it would be like for me to have to go through a LICE treatment? My daughters, I have 3 daughters. You know what it'd be like in my house to have to go through a LICE treatment? If it happens, it happens. However, if it happens because somebody didn't say that they had an issue and I was unaware, and then now there's an issue, and now my house has become a greater issue, we're going to have problems. That's that. Anyhow, what I do is, one, I've been keeping my kids' hair up, okay? Up, out of their face, out of the way, which I feel bad because my middle one hates her hair being up, but it is what it is. But I use this Fairy Tales. It's rosemary repel conditioning spray. I use this on my girl's hair. Also, what you can do is tea tree oil. I get my tea tree oil from Young Living. I put about 20 drops in their shampoo. And I also make my own spray, my own tea tree spray, which is very easy. It's water, a little bit of witch hazel, or an Epsom salt, something to just get the oils in there. And then I shake it up, and then I just spray it. And I spray that on the kids just about every day. And that's pretty much what we can do to be proactive. Keep checking your kids' hair. If you see that there's an issue, take care of it, and then please contact the appropriate people so we can make sure that there's not a greater issue. I'm gonna go and dye my hair right now because I'm so itchy talking about this. And I just want you all to know that Mama said days would be like this. Hang in there.